everyone. Welcome back to yet another episode of the No Woman Left Behind podcast show. Today, we have a productivity life coach. Emily Guerra is a productivity life coach and the creator of the Productivity Flow. Her mission is to empower women to overcome mindset barriers so that they can effectively boost productivity and reach their full potential, which I absolutely love. Emily is going to share a unique approach to coaching and focusing on merging personal and professional development to boost productivity. In this day and age, we're all so busy that this conversation is coming at the perfect time. We delve into Emily's Unstuck Framework, which includes understanding self-talk, nurturing self-empowerment, beliefs, and much, much more. Some of the things that we're going to talk about are the importance of self-awareness and mindset to overcome challenges, how to upgrade your routine for increased productivity. I'm a huge proponent of having a morning routine, the power of collaboration and building connections. And we're also going to talk about the significance of kindness and self-compassion in personal growth. So with that, stay tuned for Emily's episode as she shares actionable tips and insights to help you get unstuck and move forward in your personal and professional life. Stay tuned. Are you ready to accelerate your career? Whether you're just starting out, making your move up the ladder, or ready to take the fast lane, there's one question you need to ask yourself. Where do I stand? Introducing the Promotion Readiness Quiz. In just a few minutes, discover if you're an emerging leader, a progressive pro, or a career trailblazer. Get tailored tips and strategies to help you grow, elevate your skills, and move forward faster. Curious? Take the quiz now and step into the next chapter of your career with confidence. Unlock your potential today. Your career breakthrough starts here. Take the Promotion Readiness Quiz now. Hey, Emily, thank you so much for being here today. How are you today?
I am so good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to chat with you, Rosie.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so I know you're a productivity life coach. Now, I know there's a ton of different coaches. I've heard of a life
Mhm.
coach. I've heard of a personal development coach. Like I am a certified high performance coach, but I haven't really made the distinction or talked to anybody about a productivity life coach. So why don't you tell me a little bit about what a productivity life coach does?
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I get this question a lot. I feel like a lot of people know what a productivity coach is, know what a life coach is, but a productivity life coach, like what the heck is that? And I so get it because it's definitely a newer form of coaching. And I actually haven't even met any other fellow productivity life coaches yet. So if you are one, reach out to me, please. But a productivity life coach, what I really focus on is meshing personal and professional development. So I strongly believe that you cannot have professional development without first really working on the personal development. So I help self-employed women overcome different mindset hurdles so that way they can actually boost their productivity for the long term and start achieving those work from home visions that they have. So that's really what I do in a nutshell.
Okay. I really like that. I like that you empower self-employed women because as you will know with the pandemic, so many women exited the corporate space and now there's so many startups, going on with
Mhm.
women, which I absolutely love. But one of the things that I also resonated with when you said that is again, so I'm a high performance coach and
Mhm.
women come to me and they're like, you know what, Rosie, I really need help elevating in my career. And although I don't say, well, we have to do high performance first, we start with high performance because you're absolutely right. I can't tell someone, okay, let's start doing the career coaching when they're isn't any of the personal
Mhm.
components there. So I think
Totally.
that's a fantastic way to start.
Thank you. I
Okay.
really, really appreciate that.
Yeah. So I know that you have an unstuck framework, and I love
Mhm.
that because, again, I help women figure out women that are stuck figure out how to continue to advance in the corporate world. And I generally help mid-level professionals. So tell me, why don't we go through your unstuck framework, because I think that's kind of like the meat of this conversation today, like the really guts of
Yeah.
the conversation. Because when we are able to give somebody some actionable steps of something that they can like take away as they're listening to this, that's kind of what I think is very useful about our conversation. So
Oh,
why don't we go
totally.
through the unstuck framework?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have created an online course that really just embodies a lot of the tricks and tools that I personally used to get unstuck in various situations in my own life. And I love what you said about the pandemic and how empowering self-employed women after COVID, especially because that's my own journey too. And so I felt so stuck in COVID. Like I had no idea what I was going to be doing with my life. And I really just felt kind of rock bottom and worked up from there. And so my Unstuck framework is really built off of my own experiences. And
Hmm.
it is an acronym. So that way it's super easy to remember. And the acronym, shockingly, is Unstuck.
Yeah.
And so
Okay,
you,
so hang on. Before we
yeah.
go through the framework, you talked about your journey. So where were you when the pandemic started? And so what was the catalyst of the Unstuck framework?
Yeah, for sure. So I actually graduated from college in 2020. So right into the pandemic. And before that, I was a wedding planner, but lockdown happened and weddings were not happening. And so I waited a couple of months to see, okay, is wedding planning going to be a route I can take? But then lockdown just seemed to never end. And so I decided, I should say. I didn't decide immediately. I had to go through my Unstuck framework first.
Mhm.
But once I did, I decided to just start freelancing out social media services. And through that, I actually fell in love with helping people boost productivity. And so through my freelance work, I actually then created the Productivity Flow, which is my coaching business. So that's how it came to be. So it was very, very natural. And I feel like there were many instances before COVID, before I started my business, where I used this framework without really realizing that I used the framework.
All right. Excellent. So let's get started with Unstuck then.
Let's do it. So, U stands for understand the voice in your head. And I feel like this one is actually so important because it's just really about boosting your awareness
Mm.
and understanding your self talk and understanding your self limiting beliefs and just catching them and noticing them and saying, you know what? I don't want that to be my story anymore. And I'm going to change that story. And then that leads us to N, which is nurture empowering beliefs. So it's really just about using daily affirmations and self empowerment techniques to actually help you on the day to day start really believing in yourself and start boosting your confidence because that is so, so important for getting unstuck.
Yes.
And then my next one is substitute self doubt. And this one I love because when you can substitute self doubt with curiosity and questions and just start getting more, finding that childlike curiosity again is so helpful in flipping the perspective and actually finding action steps to move forward. So I love substitute self doubt. I use that honestly every day.
It's awesome.
And then T, we have tap into the future. So this is really about visualization and figuring out what is it that you want to work towards? Who is that future you that you want to become?
Mhm.
And start visualizing it, but also don't just visualize it once, make it a part of your routine to visualize it and to never forget your vision for the future and why you even want to move forward and get unstuck in the first place.
Got
And
it.
then, yeah, and then we have U, which is upgrade your routine. A lot of the times, a monotonous routine can really keep us stuck without even knowing it. And so just evaluating your routine and upgrading those rituals throughout your day. There's several rituals that I personally follow that I feel like just help me workflow my day so much easier. And so my day always feels like I have an action plan. And I can review those rituals real quick. So the first one is a morning ritual, of course, to get your day started.
Sure.
And then you have a workday startup ritual, which is the workflow of events or tasks or things that you do to get started into work. And then there's midday rituals, which a lot of people skip, but those are just taking breaks and making sure that
That's
you give your brain a little bit of a moment to catch up and to reset because we can just rush through the day so often. And when we do that, we're not always intentional. And so it's about really being intentional. And then we have the workday shutdown ritual, end your workday, and then the evening nightly ritual, get ready for bed. So being intentional with those and upgrading your routine with those rituals is so incredibly helpful in becoming more intentional with every single day. And then we have C, which is collaborate. It
ah,
is so important to reach out to people in your scenario because guess what? You are never alone. And remembering that and utilizing the collective wisdom that is out there is so, so helpful. And collaboration can look like in a digital format, meaning you can take an online course, watch YouTube videos, listen to podcasts. You don't always have to be engaging with someone or like talking with someone. But of course, talking with someone is always the best bet because then you can get that connection too. And connection is so key for feeling like you're a part of a community and feeling like you're supported in moving forward. And then lastly, we have K, which is kindness. It
ah,
is so easy to get down on ourselves and beat ourselves up when we are feeling like we're in a rut because we start to go into these self-limiting beliefs like we're not capable of moving forward. We have imposter syndrome. The list can go on and on. And
mhm.
so it's about just reframing that self-talk and actually supporting yourself and becoming your own best friend because that's so important. You can always count on yourself being there. And so you might as well be kind to yourself. So
That
that's my framework.
that's awesome. I love it. All right. So we're going to kind of start from the beginning and
Yeah, I
actually,
know that was a lot.
and you know what? I kind of wanted to go through it quickly because a lot of times what happens is when you start with a framework and then if I interrupt you, then we kind of forget and we figure out like we can't remember where we are. So I kind of wanted to go through the whole framework first and then kind of go back to it. But before we start, digging in, me asking questions about that, I wanted to all of these pieces are so important. And I was just listening to a podcast, and the founder of It Cosmetics, her name is Jamie Kern Lima. She's incredible. She actually just released her second book, which is called Worthy.
Oh,
And it
okay.
is so incredible because
Writing that down.
a lot of these steps are directly correlated with her description, and I heard her describe this so awesome. So what she said is your self-worth is think of a visually think of a house. So the frame, or I'm sorry, the foundation of the house is cement and it's reinforced by steel bars and it is solid. It is incredible. And so you can think about your self-worth as that really solid foundation of the house. And then you can think of self-confidence as the actual frame of the house. More often than not, houses are made of 2x4s. So the 2x4s are there. And of course, they add the siding and the roof and the doors and the windows. And your self-confidence, you can equate it to if someone gives you some bad feedback, someone throwing a rock through the window and the window breaking. And of course, you kind of feel bad about it, but what do? You go and you patch the window. So your
Mhm.
self-worth is more internal and the foundation of the house, and then the outside, or what's visible, is more of self-confidence. So
I
a lot
love
of the
that.
Yeah, a lot of the steps that you have here kind of support that. And again, she has a brand new book that's awesome. I'm listening to it and reading it at the same time, so it's kind of
Oh,
cool.
love.
But okay, so understand and nurture. This is where understanding and nurturing yourself is so important. And so when we think about that framework from your perspective, what is it that you did to understand yourself? What were those curiosity questions that you did when you were going through the pandemic and you had no idea how long the pandemic was going to go? And of course, so many brides were so disappointed because their
Mm-hmm.
weddings were canceled and things like that. So tell me a little bit about how you figured out understanding is going to be like kind of the basis.
Yeah, totally. So I think to kind of backtrack a little bit, I am so fortunate in the sense that I actually started going to therapy when I was really young, around 9 years old. And
Mm,
so I have grown up with a foundation of emotional awareness and seeing how crucial that is to really every situation and also to your relationships with yourself, but with others too. And so I think I'm super lucky in the sense that I've had the same therapist for years and years. So she knows me so, so well and was with me throughout this whole journey and really helped guide me in asking these questions and in trying to figure out what my next moves are. And something that she asked me that really made me decide to step away from the dream of wedding planning and to actually start building a real business and start earning money was, is wedding planning worth wasting your life right now? Is it worth waiting? Or is it just, are you so glued to this idea of wedding planning that you're not allowing yourself to look at other avenues? And I realized I have just been so glued to this idea because it's been what I wanted to do since I was in high school. And I had internships all throughout college and all throughout high school. So it was just what I was going to do. I never thought otherwise. And so having her ask me that and having her say, "Are you wasting your time?" was like a huge moment for me and be like, "Oh my God, I think I am wasting my time right now. And there's no real reason why I am except for my own stubbornness."
mm.
So maybe I just need to take a step back and not look at what isn't, but look at what is and look at the possibilities and start just forming 1% at a time, one step at a time, one day at a time. That's really how it started off. And so I really attribute therapy and having that emotional awareness just instilled within me throughout my whole life and throughout COVID as well.
And that makes so much sense because there's a lot of people that have gone through different traumas and situations in their life, but they haven't taken the time to go to therapy or
Mhm.
do that introspective work. So I'm glad that you started with kind of understanding yourself, and you also said another word, possibility. What are the possibilities? I think people get stuck in that, like, oh, well, I said I was going to be whatever, like a lawyer, a doctor, and they hate it. But it's
Yep.
because their parents were really wanting them to be a lawyer
Yeah.
and doctor, and they're that because not because they wanted, but family. So, and then nurturing is another piece that you just have to nurture yourself and nurture your mind and your life. And
Yeah.
then we come to substitute. So what did you do with the substitute section then?
Yeah. So substitute self-doubt, I really focus on getting curious. And there's three questions that I always ask myself to trigger momentum in whatever situation I feel stuck in. And the first question is, how can I? Because sometimes we're just so focused on, I don't know how, I can't, there's no way, that we don't even ask ourselves, okay, well, can I?
Yeah.
How can I? What would it take for me to actually do XYZ? Because when you answer that question, you literally lay out next steps for yourself. And that really helps you start to move forward. So that's the first question I always ask. Another question is, what can I learn? Because
Mm,
oftentimes we're stuck because we just don't know how to do something. And so how can I and what can I learn really helps you actually start to build any skills that you may need or start to overcome any dread or procrastination that you may have over certain things. And and so that's very, very helpful. And then the third question I always ask is what if, but in a positive sense. So we can really get into the worst case scenarios with these negative what if questions like, what if I don't make it? What if I fail? What if I get embarrassed? What if they judge me? What if I am so scared? Blah, 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 blah. All these questions, right? But then our brain naturally thinks of the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
So why not start thinking of the best case scenario and put that out into the universe? So instead of what if I fail, maybe it's what if I exceed beyond what I think I can? Or what if this turns out I'm really good at it? What if I really like it? What if I end up getting a client or two from this? What if, and then you just start kind of going off with all these best case scenarios. And that really boosts motivation because motivation is such a, you have to ignite it in order to want to take
Yeah.
action. And answering these questions can really help ignite, that wasn't English, help ignite motivation.
Got it. All right. Sounds good. And then the next one was into the future. So how did you
Mhm.
even go from wedding planning to being a productivity life coach?
I know, such a jump, right?
Yeah.
So I firstly started with freelancing out social media services. I am 26, so I grew up with social media. It
Mm,
feels like it felt like a very natural fit. And like I didn't have to learn too much. I got a couple of online certifications and also scored a couple of freelancing clients just word of mouth. So I got very lucky. I didn't have to do much marketing, and I've had consistent clients ever since I started freelancing. So that was great. And then throughout my process with my social media clients, I realized two things. Firstly, I realized that nobody has work life balance. And it is a value I strongly hold very dear to my heart and strongly believe that if everybody practiced work life balance, the world would be a better place.
mhm.
And the second thing I realized was people really don't understand productivity systems or organizational systems because they rush into it and they don't set their mindset up for success. And when they rush into it, they end up getting results they don't love. And then they try to be more productive. And then it becomes a vicious cycle. And when I saw this happening with my freelance clients, I felt drawn to help them. And one of my clients said, "You've helped me so much. You should really start a business doing this." And I was like, really? I think I will. That sounds great. And the rest is history.
Got it. Okay, and then the next one kind of fits well into what you were just talking about because it's no wonder for the upgrade routine, you have your morning routine, your midday routine, your shutdown routine, your evening routine. So, do you feel that you're most successful when you have all of these productivity um, strategies in place then?
Absolutely. And I think there's a lot of people are really against routine because they don't want their life to be boring. And
Mhm.
I respect that point of view, but I also think they don't truly understand routine because routine's not necessarily about being boring, but it's about saving energy and making room in your life for all the extra fun things that you want to do. Because when you're unintentional with your day ends up running you. And then at the end of it, you feel exhausted and you don't want to do those fun things that you had planned before. But when you optimize your routine and you match your energy levels and you follow your internal clock, guess what? Your energy actually stays most energetic when you naturally optimize it like that. So that's why I personally always follow, particularly a morning workday startup and workday shutdown routine. Those are my three religious, I will never skip those routines. And the biggest key that I think has really helped me maintain those routines is I have two versions of each. So I'll have a longer version where if I feel like I have the time, I'll go through the motions. But let's say I feel really rushed that day for some reason, I also have a shorter version where it's just one or two things that I can get done really quickly that still set me up for success. And whether that's organizational success or mindset success, it depends on the day, but I always have two versions.
That imagine a space where your career aspirations are supported by a community that truly understands your journey. A space designed for women like you, ready to elevate their careers. Our monthly membership isn't just about career advancement. It's about growing confidence, gaining clarity, and building lasting connections. From expert training and monthly workshops to a custom career roadmap, everything you need to climb higher is within reach. Join a supportive community where group coaching and networking turn your professional goals into achievable milestones. Celebrate your wins, big and small, with a network of women who are as invested in your success as you are. Are you ready to unlock the leader within? Join us and let's be brave, be bold, and take action together. I love that. Okay, so do you have two versions for the morning startup and shutdown then? Okay.
Mhm.
So talk to me about your startup, your work startup routine and the
Yes,
difference between the two because I want to give the listeners an idea of what a routine, a routine is always like
totally.
I usually get up, get my coffee, I like work out and all those things. But I'd love to hear the difference between your short and your long startup routines.
Yeah, absolutely. So whenever I sit down at my desk, the first thing I'm gonna go through the longer routine first, by the way,
Okay.
just preference that. But the first thing I always do is I will pick up a book and read for 15, 20 minutes. And I just love starting my day with a little bit of inspiration. It's just one of the things that brings me joy in life. And
Mm,
then after that, I will meditate for 15 minutes. And then I will go through my day. I've already time blocked it the night before. So it's already outlined and ready to go. I will just review what my day is bringing. And then I know what my first task is since I outlined it the night before. And I will just jump right into that. So it's really simple. It's nothing crazy. And I think that's the biggest point with rituals is that they're meant to be so simple. So let's say I'm feeling rushed for time. I will just do 5 to 10 minutes of meditation and then jump right into my workday because meditation for me is that one thing that can always ground me. As much as I love to read, sorry, books, sometimes you just got to be pushed to the side if I'm really
mhm.
busy.
Got it. Okay, I love that. And you know what I love is like I expected you to go through like this big list. It's a really simple
Yes,
routine, both your long and even your short routine. It's just like one or two things. I was actually
exactly.
talking to one of my clients yesterday and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I haven't meditated." And I was like, "Well, the meditation can be very simple. It's
Mhm,
literally 2 minutes, and
mhm.
all you have to do is breathe and say the word release. And it's one of the routines that we use, one of the meditations that we use, and it's just very simple. And she's like, "That's it?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's it. You don't have to do more than that." She's like, "That's meditation?" I'm like, "Yes." It's just
Literally.
she was like, "Wow, I can do that." So
Exactly.
and I love that you have, your 5-minute meditation, and then if you have the time, then you read your book. But you also said something very key. You outline your task list the day before so that you know exactly what you're going to start with and you block out your time the following day. And I think that's super critical. So, do you follow that every day?
Yes. So part of my workday shutdown routine, especially I work from home. So I really need to separate my personal life and my work life. I'm really, really blessed. I have an office, which I am so grateful for. But I've also lived in one bedroom apartments and I've also lived with roommates. So I know how it can be when you have that lack of separation of space. So when you have a lack of separation of space, you really got to separate it mentally. And that's what the workday shutdown routine does for me personally. And I know it does for a lot of my clients as well. And again, just so simple. What I do is firstly a stop, start, and continue chart. So the first column is stop. If there's anything in my day that was a self-limiting belief or hindered me in some way and I caused it, if I got in my own way is a better way of saying that, then I will just note it down and acknowledge that it happened and put it into the stop column. So that way I know tomorrow I'm going to try to not do that. And
Mm.
then stop. Oh my gosh, my English today is just not here. Wow. And then start if there is something that I did not do, but know that it will help me. And mind you, always small things. So, like whether it's I missed a midday ritual or I was late to a meeting or just things like that, that I know kind of set me back a little bit, mindset or otherwise, I'll add it into the start chart, That's funny, start chart to do it for tomorrow. And then continue just always celebrating those wins and saying, okay, I am proud of myself that I did this today and I'm going to do it again tomorrow. So that's one thing I do. And it always just takes like a minute or two. I never go into it too in depth. And then the next thing I do is I will just outline my day for tomorrow. So I actually have a daily planner. I can show you right here. It's also on my website, but it's just all of my top 3 tasks, my buffer tasks, my business tasks, and then a calendar that's time blocked in 15-minute increments. And I will outline it and then I'll number which tasks I have to do. And then there we go. Now I know what I have for tomorrow. I'm not nervous about it. I've already outlined it. I can put it away for tonight and actually enjoy my night off.
Oh, I really like that. And I'm surprised that you actually are a print and write.
Oh, yes. Everyone is always so surprised by that. And everyone's also like so surprised I don't really use my phone and I don't use my phone timers. I actually have like little cube timers right here that I use that I think are so helpful because I don't know, just simplifying it
Yeah.
honestly makes it so much easier to follow through. And I think that's something in the productivity world right now. We just need to simplify everything.
Yes,
Everything's a
right.
little too complicated. And if we can just take it a notch down, we'll actually be more productive.
It's so interesting because there's so many people that are like, use Monday and use like all these. And I was like, hey,
Notion and
I've tried them and it's just so overwhelming to use like the whole thing because they're not simple things. If I wanted to do something, I either just write it down or I put it as a task or a calendar invite, something like that
exactly.
for myself. But okay, so that entire segment that we just talked about was the upgrading routine. So now we
Mhm.
have collaborate. So how is collaborating coming into play?
Oh, I mean, every day, right? You and I just right now we're
Yeah.
collaborating, you know? So I think also though, when you feel stuck and you feel like you don't know how to move forward, remembering that there's always someone who has been in your position. You may not know them directly, but you can interact with their content. You can reach out to them. You can learn from them and don't view collaboration as like asking for help because a lot of the time we can get so nervous to ask for help and so nervous to put ourselves out there in that way and admit that we don't know or admit that we can't do something. So instead, look at it as like you're gathering information and like you're
Mhm.
just seeing how other people are moving forward and how you can too and how you can apply it to your own life and not making it so scary and just making it more about building relationships and connections and learning. So that's like the big mindset shift that I had to make with collaboration because I think COVID really instilled a lot of social anxiety within me. And I had to kind of overcome that as I was building a business. I've never built a business before. I don't
Sure.
know what I'm doing sometimes. I have to reach out to people and ask. And so learning how to do that was a process for me. So I definitely helped break it down in my course and outlined like step by step how to reach out to somebody and how to actually collaborate digitally with other people's content, but also in person.
Yeah, and collaborating could be, like you said, you and I are collaborating right now, but it can be individually by writing an article and asking somebody to give you a quote for whatever
Yes.
article. So there's so many different ways in collaboration. So I really like that. And then the last one was kindness. Be kind to yourself. So how did that show up for you?
I think there were many instances where my self talk put me back more than it pushed me forward.
Hmm.
And I had to take a step back and ask myself if I was empowering myself or if I was disempowering myself. And part of that process was also acknowledging how my body physically reacted whenever I felt like I was disempowering myself. And I came to realize that I would get real like shaky, get really tense, my shoulders would rise, just lots of negative physical reactions. And I really wanted to let that go because I did not want to have the entire day full of me being tense and me being like, oh, I'm just pushing myself farther back. And so I talked with my therapist. I'm like, what's the disconnect for me? Why can't I do this? Like, what is wrong with me? Blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, do you hear how you're talking? You're so mean to yourself right now. Like, are you talking to yourself in the way that you would talk to your little siblings or that you would talk to your grandparents? If that's a no, then you need to take a step back and switch it up so that way you treat yourself the same way you treat your loved ones. Because if you aren't your best friend, then how can you ever ask someone else to be your best friend?
Mm-hmm.
And that really hit home for me. And so and I also feel like feels, oh my gosh, again with me and my tongue tiedness, I apologize. But I also feel like it ties a lot in with nurture empowering beliefs and kindness really do go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And kindness is kind of is a little bit broader way of saying that. But it's just about catching yourself in the moment and being like, okay, could I say this to a kid? If the answer is no, then maybe I need to be kinder. And that's been like a huge help for me.
Yeah. And again, it kind of goes back to that self-worth and that
Mm-hmm.
self-confidence that if something, outside of you kind of shakes your self-confidence, then you have to work on it. But when did you realize that you needed to work on yourself, like from the nurturing perspective and understanding perspective and being kind to yourself? At what point of your journey did that all kind of come together for you?
So I actually feel like that came a little bit before I graduated from college. And then I kind of lost it a little bit in COVID. And then right after I started freelance again, I really found my footing with empowering myself again. But in college, there was actually a point where I was anorexic and really just not helping myself. And my self talk had a lot to do with that. And then it got to a point where I was like, almost 85 pounds and just really scary. And I finally had a moment of like, I can't do this anymore. This
Mhm,
is like, I need something to change. And I don't know what, but I know that I can start with me. And
mhm.
so that's really where this whole self-empowerment journey started. And then it just kind of meshed into business and productivity as I became a self-employed woman.
Got it. Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I'm glad you're better. I'm
Thank
glad you're
you.
well. And, it's one of those things that you have to go through those experiences, those situations, that journey, and you're still super young,
Mhm.
but that served you well because
Mhm.
now you're a productivity coach. And what I really like is your Unstuck framework, the whole thing, but you have such great routines and perspectives. And even like when you catch yourself knowing that you're saying something, unkind to yourself, you write it down and you are very intentional about shifting that. And that is so critically important. So one of the things that I talk to my clients about and just in social media and my podcasts and things like you have to be intentional with your career. You need to
Mhm.
be intentional with how you're managing your career because if you leave it on autopilot, then who knows what's going to happen. So I have my clients go through a custom career roadmap. And with the custom career roadmap, it kind of has all of those pieces and those components that they have to work on. And it's not going to be a once and done. You can't sit down and do it in one whole,
Yeah,
afternoon, because there's a lot of different pieces. But the important thing is that it's a process. It's a
exactly.
journey and it takes time, but at the end, what I tell my clients is like, I can guarantee you that by the end, you will be promotion ready because you will. And the other thing about confidence and with the custom career roadmap or with anything really, women come to me and they're like, Rosie, I need to get confidence in order to work on my career.
Yeah,
And I'm like, it's the other way around. I always say, like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? I'm like, you need
exactly.
to take action and
Action.
start working on all these pieces in order to build your confidence. And I think that's really
Exactly.
cool that you just kind of exemplified it as you were working on all these pieces. You were also working on your confidence by, understanding yourself and nurturing yourself and being kind to yourself, all those things. So I think you're in an amazing position being a productivity life coach. And so
Thank
I know
you.
your company's the productivity flow, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so how did you come up and I looked at your website, it looks beautiful. And so you
Oh,
have,
thanks.
like productivity flow, like very flowy. So how did you come up with that? It just fits so well.
Thank you. Firstly, I really appreciate that. I feel like I spent a little way too long on my branding, but I've been getting a lot of good feedback from it. So it was well worth it. But I honestly asked my dad, and he and I were going back and forth with names. And I said, like, the productivity something. And then he said something, something flow. And I was like, oh, the productivity flow. That's it. That's the one. And I just like, I don't know, it was just kind of like a fun little brainstorming session that he and I had together where the name really came from. But that being said, I do have three pillars of productivity. One of them is motivation, one of them is focus, and the third one is flow. Because I feel
Mhm.
like when you can get into the flow, you can really boost your productivity. But how do you get into the flow? And that's what I help coach on. And so it really meshed into a beautiful brand that I am very proud of.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I think it works really well. So, what are like maybe what could be one thing? I know we talked about a lot of really good things
Mhm.
already, but if you were to leave the listeners with one actionable thing that they can start doing right away, what would be the one thing that you would ask them to do?
So I really love what you said about confidence and action because it's something I also tell my clients so often. And I feel like all coaches probably tell it to all clients is confidence really comes from action. And so taking those first steps can be really challenging. So substitute your self-doubt and start getting curious and ask those three questions, whether it's how can I, what can I learn, or what if in a positive sense. I think those questions and just curiosity in general can really trigger momentum in a way you're not actually thinking about right now. And that is probably one of the biggest keys to getting unstuck is to being open to possibilities.
I love that. And you had also mentioned something about a course. What is your course about?
Yes. So it's actually called How to Get Unstuck and Move Forward. And it covers these 7 unstuck strategies that you and I talked about today. And then these strategies can be used for my 3 unstuck steps, which I cover in the course. And there's over a dozen free bonus tools. There's a workbook. You get a free coaching session with me, videos on how to do stuff, a whole bunch of stuff. So it's definitely worthwhile.
That's amazing. I love it. And so, okay, so all of your information will be in the episode website. So I'm excited about that. So what's next?
Oh, I love that. I have actually started public speaking. And
Uh,
so I have been joining conferences and doing workshops and just really trying to put the word out there about how to reframe productivity and start using your mindset as the superpower that it is.
mm,
And that's really what I've been doing. I also am so excited to continue expanding my coaching career, get more clients, and just that whole shebang too.
That's awesome. And of course, you're going on different podcasts, but I think the biggest
That too.
thing is continuing with the productivity life, coaching and emphasizing that productivity. And the other thing is we're getting bombarded with information and
Mhm.
so many things throughout our entire day all over. And for me personally, I am rarely on social media other than LinkedIn. LinkedIn is kind of where I hang out, but I deleted most of my notifications for things because all the dings and it's just so overwhelming,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it takes away being focused. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I'm implementing. It's like turning off all my notifications, and my family
So
knows when I'm
big.
going to be busy from this time to this time or whatever. But it is the work that you're doing is so critically important right now. So congratulations on all the things that are happening on the
Thank
course,
you.
and I can't wait to see you on the stage then.
Thank you so, so much. I had so much fun chatting with you today. I feel like I even learned a lot just listening to you. So thank you so much. And this was honestly so fun.
Awesome. All right, Emily, thank you so much for your time.
Have a good one.
Thank you all so much for tuning in to today's episode with Emily from the Productivity Flow. It was a pretty cool, insightful conversation about overcoming mindset hurdles and boosting your productivity, which I think is so necessary today. A few of my key takeaways is that the first thing is taking steps to being open to possibilities can trigger momentum and boost confidence. So, looking for new ways of doing things is kind of the big takeaway there. The second thing for me is being kind to yourself is something that we always forget about. Kind of reframing that self talk can definitely have a significant impact on your mindset and productivity. Give yourself some grace. Give yourself a break for not being perfect about all the things that we need to do. And then the last thing is that utilizing your collective wisdom of your relationships can really help you move forward and feel supported in your journey. Emily leaves us with one actionable tip, and she says substitute some of that self doubt with curiosity by asking yourself questions. You can ask yourself a question starting with, how can I do whatever? What can I learn? And what if? And I think those are all very simple questions, but very powerful. What if I were to be able to be the best speaker in the world? Something like that. This can really help you trigger momentum and open up to possibilities for growth and help you progress in your career. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to check out Emily's course on how to get unstuck and move forward. All of Emily's contact information will be on the episode website. And if you haven't done so already, please check out the promotion readiness quiz. That's going to show you where you are in your promotion readiness. And also check out the Unlock the Leader Within membership. Some of my goals for the membership are to get you promotion ready, help you gain confidence to advocate for yourself, and build an amazing, supportive community of women that are like-minded and ambitious. The links to all of those things will be on the episode website. So with that, thank you for listening, and stay tuned for more empowering conversations coming next week. So with that, remember to be brave, be bold, and take action.